Few survive this world. But those who do awaken. The desert wants you dead, off-worlder. If the sands don't take you, the storms will swallow you whole. But you don't have to walk this path alone. In every danger, there is opportunity. The foundation of something greater. A power waiting to be harnessed. Desert power. Some claim to rule this planet. But Arrakis is yours to explore. To fight for. To conquer. But there are forces beyond even your control. Master Arrakis, and it will open your mind. This is your path to awakening.
Welcome back. I have now two new guests with me to talk about exchange and the Landsraad. One of them is Joel Bylos, first time on this stream, never seen before. We did let him out of the doghouse again. So for those of you who wondered, Joel, creative director on Dune Awakening. You want to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure.
For those of you who don't know him.
This week my name is Al Gaib.
Okay, there you go.
And yeah, I'm the creative director on Dune Awakening, and I've had to change sponsor due to something that happened during the last podcast. Sorry, live stream. So I've switched sponsors now.
All right. So we just balance it out between Coke and Pepsi. All good. Mm-hmm. And then we have a first timer on the stream, Amar Zouari. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you.
Senior designer.
Funcom. Joel is such a clown.
Yes, I'm Amar, senior designer on Dune Awakening. I mostly work
I love their
on
attitude.
systems such as the Landsraad, what we call hazards, such as quicksand, drum sand, and sandworm.
Sandworm, master of the
Master
worm.
Sandworm. What was it like the godfather of sandworms? No, what was it? Worm father. The worm father. Yes, the worm father. There we go. So if you make the acquaintance of one of our worms, you can blame Amar. Well, the whole team really working under him, but he had a big say in it. So yeah, obviously we do have social mechanics in the game, and there's a way for players
literally get a bonus to everything that makes the game's grind easier. Exactly. Planetologist is going to be super important.
And one of the social aspects that we kind of modeled a little bit after traditional MMOs is the exchange, which is basically our auction house. Joel, you want to go a little bit more into what that actually looks like?
Sure. I mean, you can probably see it on the screen right now, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
I will be curious to see how quickly stuff populates in the exchange.
Beyond your average survival game. Because
being able to buy components to put vehicles and stuff together.
When I say world, I'm talking about our definition of world, which is battle groups in other games. It's kind of a definition where we have a bunch of these sietches, which are the servers, and they all connect to a single world. And within that world, there's a single exchange, which means people are able to sell and buy things off the exchange across these spaces, which means that you can, you know, obviously.
And I am
standard
super
things
curious
people
to
tend
see
MMOs for a
how
long
many
time.
players
But the
will
cool
that
thing
actually
about our
turn
games is we
into
have
in a
these
world, right? Because you can have
dynamic
up
elements that can be
to
bought and sold
300 in the deep desert
on the
overall.
exchange.
You can
And we really
have
tried to bring sort of
up to
focus on the
40
things from, like,
playing in a
from
siege.
the advantages that this type of
in a
game
Haga
has. For
basin at
example,
a
free
time.
building. So you'll be able
But how
to
many sieges will there
craft the
be
buildings, as you saw earlier, save them to
in
the
a
replicator
world?
that we showed.
You know what I
I think in
mean?
the earlier part of
Yeah.
the
Is it going to
live
be
stream.
1,000? Is it
And then you'll be able to
2,000?
go
Is it
to an exchange,
5,000 people
preview
that will
someone
share
else's
the market? Is the question that I
sets,
have
and
here,
then
right?
purchase them,
Not
bring them
all
home, and
online
then
at the
place
same
their own
time, but how many
and obviously fill them in. So
can play
kind
on
of the idea here
on
is that
what
have
we
this
would
dynamic
consider a
content. It means that
server
people who
in a
play
regular
this role
game?
of architects, which is something that we've seen as I think a new kind of play style that comes out of these kind of games, these survival, you know, open world crafting games. People who are architects are actually able to make a living, hopefully, by selling really cool designs on the exchange to other players. And of course, we'll have people who make beautiful, artistic things like the scorpion we saw that was really
Yeah,
cool and stuff like
exactly.
that.
Whatever the
Yeah.
ambient
And,
noise is
you know,
in their stream is
There were
kind
also
of.
people who are like sweaty PvP raiders who are really like
The
making
honeycomb
their
bases,
honeycomb
yes.
boxes to put
Yeah,
out in
yeah,
the deep
yeah.
desert.
How many
So
players-
hopefully, you know, this creates some sort of
Right, because a world, right? A world is what we would traditionally call a shard or a server in another MMORPG, right? We know that you can have up to 300 people in the deep desert at one time, right? And then you can have up to 40 in each Haga basin at a time, but we don't know how many Haga basins will potentially be attached to a given world. Right. And then you have to consider, okay, if there's this many hundreds of people online in a on a world at a time, how many will actually be the population cap for that Haga basin? You know, for that world, rather, not for the Haga basin. You know, will it be 1,000 players? Will it be 2,000, 5,000 players tied to a world? Because when we're talking about the market, is I want to know how big is the population cap for the world's marketplace, because each world has their own market. It's not a global thing, at least if I understand correctly. Right. So like if you're on World 1 versus World 35, they're going to be completely separate markets because you're talking about different players. Private server players doesn't count. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, you know, that's typical of most MMOs. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't think they've told us. I'm just curious, right? Because, I mean, the thing is that the auction house mechanic, the exchange in this case, becomes more or less relevant depending on how many players are in a server. Like, one of the things that I absolutely did not like about Elder Scrolls Online, I think it was Elder Scrolls Online, where the auction house was limited to one guild, right? Now, you could have, you know, however many people you could have in the guild, but it wasn't any kind of a even remotely global auction house. And for me, that's one of the resources that I want to tap, both buying and selling. And I didn't like the way it felt. In ESO, the auction house mechanic sucked, in my opinion, right? So I'm curious to see how this feels, because this game, there will be some people that just really aren't interested in building and creating everything, which to me is unfathomable because it's such a big part of the game. But I get it. Not everybody's into that side. So I'll be curious to see. And yeah, I mean, the planetology stuff is definitely going to be super important for end game vehicles, the carriers and the harvesters, especially, I think. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's all very much, of course, part of me is I just want to be in it. But I want to see how it's all gonna shape up.
Economy around this, and that's kind of one of the coolest things about our exchange.
Yeah. I also think it's really cool because, again, if you don't like to build, you can just go there and get something really cool.
Yeah, we'll see how it all
goes. If you want
goes.
something, but you don't want to spend the time to actually design it. So I think this is a very, very cool feature. And there is, of course, other things that you can as well.
Yeah, so
get on exchange.
another really interesting sort of dynamic thing that you can put
Wherever
on
this character, wherever this
in our
character
cartography
is
system,
standing
where you go out
at
and survey,
the
and we've talked about this a bit. You go and survey
at the
areas.
exchange,
And when
the
you
ambient
have a survey
noise
area, you can
is
basically
loud.
print out a sync chart, which is obviously a name from the lore. Print out a sync chart of the area that you've been surveying, and that basically fills in all the resources and all of the things that you've seen on the map.
The sync
You can
chart,
go to the
man.
exchange
The
with
exploration
print out
stuff,
your
I'm
sync
super
charts and
excited
sell
for
those
it
sync
too.
charts to other players. So it's, you know, for Haggard Basin South, the starting region, the areas are fairly set. But of course the deep desert resets every week. And there are 81 different zones in the deep
Yeah,
desert
I mean, I know that they're going to have to dial it all in
Surveyed,
depending
surveyed
on
and surveyed
the
and
response
printed
to the
out. So
game, right?
we see this as kind of an activity.
Hey, what's up,
that
Bart?
we see players doing
Let's
right
go!
now. Of course,
I am
Nick
so
Gills will
ready,
probably have
man.
dedicated scouts who go out, survey the deep desert, try to get as much of the resource information as possible, bring it back and hand it out to their guildmates. But in addition to that, we'd also expect there to be independent contractors, people who go out to the deep desert survey and then sell their maps on the exchange. And hopefully you can also get a reputation as being someone who's very thorough, someone who does a good job of the cartography loops of the game. So people start to recognize, okay, this person's a good cartographer. I'm going to buy their maps. They're generally up to date for the week and they're generally in good shape. So hopefully, again, just like the architect, we want that to be a style of play that people can really lean into. It's the same with cartography. We hope that there are scouts and people who lean into this map making side of the game.
So
Okay,
also,
all right.
like,
You know what they just showed that I'm now curious about, right? Is we're looking at stuff from the exchange. Okay, here's a blueprint for a base that is clearly built with Harkonnen tile set, right? What if I go buy that blueprint, but I don't have the Harkonnen tile set? Can I still set the blueprint and build it with Atreides or with Chom? I wonder how that works.
That there are scouts and people who lean into this map making side of the game.
So also, like, as you just mentioned, Deep Desert is so huge. Even if you're a big guild, you won't have time or the resources to actually really survey everything. And maybe you don't find that spot that has like super saturated resources. And then someone actually goes out. It might be a single player that isn't even like, it might even be a PvE player that might just try to sneak around.
Man, I'm not going to lie,
around
the
all
exploration
PvP
stuff, I'm going to be
but they still
torn.
have the opportunity
Right?
to kind of
Tuesday
make it
morning,
down
I'm
here
going to
and
want to
make
log in. I'm going to want to
important
survey
in
the
context of
entire
everything,
desert.
especially the deep desert.
I just
So think
wonder how
that's
much
really
time
cool.
that's actually
And then
going
we
to
can also
take.
talk about the Explorer, for example. That's also another thing that there's an opportunity for explorers here as well, of course. with
Sure, I
Exchange.
mean, yeah, so we have the unique schematic system in the game. We've talked about this as well, where players are able to find unique schematics, but they're limited.
Yeah, you can mix and
creation
match them,
runs.
but does it matter which tile set if you're using a blueprint, right? My gut feeling is that Funcom has been so on point with it that I would expect that we'd get a blueprint and we'd be able to choose which tile set we want to build. But then I think about that base that won the contest thing just a little while ago in this video, where they had tiles from both Atreides and Harkonnen in it. And for the flavor of that build, you know, is it going to give me a thing and say, you don't own this tile set, do you want to substitute with Chom? Right? Or will it just not let me place something there and then I have to fill it in myself? So it's just one of those things. I'm like, wait a minute, how are they going to handle that? Guilds are already heavy RP. You failed a question test and got booted for being Harkonnen allied. It will, you know, that's going to be super interesting to me as well, because we've spent so much time playing Star Citizen, and I play a lot of New World, right? Which are, while there are role play elements in the community, they're tiny. They're tiny. New World is the worst for it for me with the games that I've experienced, where it's like there's so much role play potential and just nobody cares. You know, they're ranting and raving about politics or sports or stupid shit that's in the public eye, and it's like everything about the game. It looks so immersive, but as soon as you interact with the community, that's just gone. right? So I kind of miss the old school days of MMORPGs where everybody kind of sort of at least stayed in the mindset of being in the game. They stayed in the immersion as much as they could, even if they were socializing, right? They may be talking about this, that, and the other, but they would immediately go back to the game content. So if Dune is going to have a little bit more of the vibe of staying in the envelope of the game, even if we're just talking about exploring the deep desert or doing the PvE content, versus just everybody constantly off on a tangent, ranting about politics, which is the worst, right? Then I'll be happy about that. But it will be interesting to see how it plays out. It's been the kind of a global change in games in general over the last, God, I'm old, 30 years. Yes, right. I mean, it adds flavor to the game, right? I understand if people who are playing the game aren't necessarily role players. I do. It's fine. Not everybody has to be a character in a movie. But the problem that I have is, like in New World, if you run into somebody that has a role play flavor to their attitude, you get all of these child gamers that just want to shit all over that, right? That's the part that sucks so bad in some communities. You took 2.5 weeks to play? Oh, man. Jeez. No, I really can't wait, man. I'm gonna no life to shit out of this game as much as I can at launch. I'm not gonna lie. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. Met people not RPing and ended up being really good sports about it. I mean, at least, because that's part of the flavor of the game, right? Is people being immersed in the game, and totally, you should just enjoy it as an observer. That's my opinion. The people that want to interfere, the people that want to be upset that other people are doing this, those are the people that frankly shouldn't be playing the game. They shouldn't. They should not be playing an MMO. They should be off playing some single player game, or they should be playing some god awful cutthroat Fortnite wannabe, whatever. I don't care. Right. And I know that sounds a little bit like gatekeeping, and I don't really mean you shouldn't play it if you don't want to play it. But God, just shut up. Just shut up. If you don't like what they're doing, move on. Right. It's not like they're in your way. Man, I just don't understand it.
So you can only create the item that you find in the unique schematic one time. So you want to find multiple versions of the schematic in order to save that up and then craft more. So if you go and find a very rare schematic that nobody else has found, you can make a choice. You can either sell the schematic itself on the exchange to another player, which they can then obviously purchase and craft, or you can craft the item yourself and sell that on the exchange. So you also have this choice.
It will be interesting to see which is the more profitable way to do that too.
This very specific rare thing, or whether you want to be.
Do you sell the hot schematic, or do you sell the item
you find on the exchange
with the extra investment of the materials and the time?
Also allows, the deep desert is a PvP area, and we know that some people never want to go in a PvP area ever.
Hey Matthew, how you doing? I'm super excited about it too. But it's the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow's just the preload.
So there's hopefully this crossover. And again, going back to the guild layer, we're hoping that there are some people. I think guilds will have this multifaceted approach where you have your scouts, your architects.
Man, I cannot wait. I am so hyped.
And your PvPers, right? And PvEers. So people who go out with different tasks, and then they come back and they all work together to create the full stack.
Yes,
and I think guild activities is going to be something we talk about very soon.
Yes, we will. But also, just to mention that again, so that's every archetype basically is kind of important in the big picture, which I think is
See, I met my wife role-playing in Dark Age Camelot back in 2003. That's actually how we met, online.
From anywhere, right? I mean...
And now we've been married 20 years.
Nice lead-in.
I know, I'm trying. That wasn't the best one, though, I admit.
Of course, the exchange is only available in the social hubs.
Yes.
So Harco Village and Arrakis. This is because we want players to deal with a bit of logistics, but we also want players to see other
players.
a
It's
lot,
nice,
right? And
yeah.
the deep desert is a big
Yes.
lonely place.
Yeah,
Until
no,
you
the
get,
preload is
Depending.
tomorrow
Until you're,
morning,
like,
I think,
2
at
points
10
ahead.
a.m.
Yeah, someone
Eastern.
else.
Yes.
But
And
there's,
then
like,
24 hours
Hacker
later, we
Base
get to
is a-
actually
is a
hop
place
in
where
on
you
the
can
5th.
meet and hang out with people. But
I know, it's like one more day. No, I didn't want to wait one more day. I want to get in, man.
Exchange is a location that pulls you in, and like you'll see. We've all had this feeling in MMOs when you go to the auction house and
Yes.
there's 50 people around, and
Yeah.
you can understand that this is actually a world with a lot of people in it.
You also have to go there to pay taxes, though, which is kind of like the.
I'm actually
a little bit
glad
of
that they
bummer
made that
as well.
choice.
So you
Social
don't
hubs used to be such a
spend your
big
money
thing
to
in
pay
every
taxes or
game, and
spend your
now a
money
lot of the
buying
time they're
stuff.
just
Or
not.
make money to pay your taxes. There's the other thing.
And it was a way to
I
connect with
taxes for 2
people.
weeks in the beta, and I came back.
All right,
to
Bart,
a-
thanks for dropping by, man.
that
07s.
I had to repair.
Well,
That's my fault.
Well, that's all on you. That
Yes.
is all on you. Also, like if you just had the small sub.
Oh, God. Unless you're the type of player and person like your cousin that rushes through everything and then spoils it for everyone. No.
I've been in it for a week.
That's the kind of person that deserves to be a little
So,
bit beat down with
obviously,
a pool
that was one of the
noodle.
aspects that players
Bop,
can
bop, bop,
actually
stop it.
kind of take part in the economy. But more importantly, players can also take part in politics. That brings us to the Landsraad.
Well, I mean, and I
Before we
understand a
go
lot of
into
people
the
won't want to
actual
spend
mechanics
time
and
there,
what
but the
that
fact
looks
that
like,
when they're
Joel,
active,
maybe you can give
there
us a
are
little bit of a
opportunities to be
background
had
of how that
there.
actually fits into the Dune lore.
But we'll see.
Yeah, so
I think it's better that they have
the
social hubs for
Landsraad
the
is
marketplace
the
rather
High
than just
Council
anybody
that
can list
deals with
anything
the Emperor in The
anytime.
books, right? It's kind of this political body. They have some influence on the policies of the Imperium.
I didn't think I was going to be all that interested in the Landsraad, but the way that they seem to be doing it,
but in our game,
I think it is actually going to be interesting.
To create decrees that then impact the entirety of Arrakis and affect the ongoing war.
At least.
And the way that we've designed this system is that player factions, the Atreides and Harkonnen, are attempting to get votes in the Landsraad so that they can impact the overall structure of this. And so the idea here is just to really create and it is an endgame activity driver is what I call it, right? It's a way of creating a system where people are asked to do activities to help their faction earn votes in the Landsraad. And the Landsraad then has a voting session, and
It's way more interesting than the bingo card in New World, I will say that.
In addition to that, is that the Landsraad takes place across like a series of servers. Just like I mentioned, the Exchange does the same thing. So there's one Landsraad for a world. A world contains multiple servers within it. So it isn't just like a few people competing.
I
It's everybody
only
in
got
that
to
world
play
competing, and all
the
the
2
factions in that
hours
world. And we
in the
will
beta,
have a look
and
at how
I
that
had not
rotates
played
and
it
stuff
all
come
before.
playing
I had
this.
not really been
I think we can
actively
basically just
following.
dive into it and show.
So
what it
as far as
actually
new
looks
stuff
like.
goes,
The only
I'm
piece
kind of
I find
ignorant.
A few assets here that we can show you.
Somebody over there is pushing buttons too quick.
The Landsraad week, it's a cycle that lasts a week, and to be eligible to participate, players need to.
I know
align
that
themselves
since
to
the
factions,
beta,
and
they have
to
talked
get
about certain
advantage.
things being changed. Like
And the week
there was a
starts for
problem
players
with
to
if
go
you
out
were
into the
out of
world
stamina
find,
and you were being hit
25
melee again and
That's
again
the
and again and
process.
again and again.
And
You were
basically
essentially
there's some
stamina
sort of
locked,
there,
right? You couldn't do
finding
anything, and that meant you were toast as long as they kept left clicking,
the player
right? You couldn't do
found
anything because you
one
couldn't regen
representative,
stamina.
and
They
the
did make a
items
change
to,
so that when you're in that circumstance, you will regen stamina slowly now. So you should, after a moment, I don't know how long exactly, you'll have a chance to dodge out and try and break the stam lock thing. So there's a few things that got polished after the open beta. That was the only thing that I remember that was especially notable, but they were talking about tuning some things. Hopefully they're going to address a lot of the desyncy stuff that we saw, because particularly with PvP in the open beta, I had some really awful latency just every once in a while. Most of the time it was pretty playable for me, but occasionally it would spike over 500, which is just... And if you watched people doing the open beta PvP, there was clearly some teleporty, desyncy, janky people not necessarily being where they look like they were. So that's something that they were going to work on as well. So hopefully at launch, on Thursday, we'll see a lot less of that. But as far as new stuff, yeah, unfortunately, I'm a little bit late to the party. It was one of those things, like, I've not been one to play the builder survival games online. And even though I love Dune, you know, I read the book decades ago, and I played Dune 2000 when that was a thing back in the day. I watched all the movies, the miniseries from Sci-Fi years ago, etc. I'm a fan, right? But it was a builder survival. It's like, no, I don't need a new game. I'm not going to watch. And then some of my friends have gotten more and more hyped about it. And I decided to go ahead and try and get into the beta weekend, and I watched Funcom's live stream and got a code that way and hopped in, and I spent 27 hours over 2 days playing the game, and I'm very excited for it now, but I cannot offer any real insight as to what's changed. Love so many of these games, quite a few of them. Never read the source material. Well, I mean, you know, you don't necessarily have to either, though. That's kind of the beauty, right? Is you get involved in the cinematic interactive experience, and it will be interesting to think, of course it's happening now, obviously, but it used to be there'd be people that are watching a movie about something that was based on a book, and there's lots of people now that would say, I've never read the book, but I really enjoyed the movie, right? You know, 10 years from now, will we get more adaptations like this? Like, Amazon's supposed to be working on a Lord of the Rings game using the same engine they used for New World. How many times will we see people like Dune say, I'm playing the game, but I never read any of the books or watched any of the movies? Well, I mean, that's just in 2 days, 27 hours. I mean, I know people played more, but I'm old, man. I'm 56 years old. More importantly, my wife's a disabled Marine Corps veteran, so I do have to take care of her. I can't know life completely as much as sometimes I want to. Like Starship Troopers, yes, the books I really enjoyed the book, right? But the movie is nothing like the book. Nothing like the book, like at all, right? The Starship Troopers in the book are essentially, you know, you drop them one per fucking square mile or something, because these guys are wearing powered armor with nukes, and they're just destroying bugs en masse individually. And clearly that's not what we got in the movie at all, which actually my wife just put it on a couple of days ago, which is, this is how you know you married the right person, by the way, is when she puts the movie on and you don't have to, right? So that was very cool. But yeah, totally different experience, you know, those Starship Troopers, the movies, and then the animated series and whatnot that came out after the fact, right? That's all that kind of military-esque squad. That's not how the book was at all. Thank you very much for the follow, Elise. I appreciate it. Haven't looked that much into things because heard from streamers, but you're super excited. Yeah, I mean, I started, you know, after I got into the beta weekend, I started watching all the videos. It's like, oh, I got to see what's going on. I can't wait to play.
Like, reveal their kind of goals to you, and there's also depending on which great house that you're actually talking to, so they change.
I like that we got voice content for
so
the
one thing is, of course, doing chores
for the contracts and the missions, at least some of them.
There's also other ways, right?
The
that
story.
You can convince them
You can bribe them, some of them.
straight out.
Some of them are
Some
not
of them.
bribable. And yeah, that will reveal their requirement for the week. And then
She's one of the House representatives. We met one in Starter Zone 2 at the trading post. I don't remember which house it was.
So they might like you more if you're from a certain background or a certain caste in the universe, and therefore they might provide more information freely.
Faster
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah,
so
that's
you get
cool.
to that faster. And the reason that you should get to that kind of, you should reveal that fast is kind of something that we're going to show after now, so we can actually kind of switch to that and show the board, kind of the Landsraad board. Here we go. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, there's people that would say, "God, that movie's so bad. Why would you say that?" But you know, if it's something that that you're a fan of, right? If your partner turns it on, that's clearly a shared interest. It tickled the shit out of me when she put it on the other day. She was browsing whatever on the Fire Stick and was like, oh, hey, and she put on Starship Troopers. And it literally made me laugh out loud, because it's just one of those things where you would talk to somebody that was like, oh, I put Starship Troopers on, and the wife said, what is this trash? And it's like, you might want to reconsider whether you're in the right partnership there. Exactly. Exactly. You know, the one thing that I remember being disappointed about with Starship Troopers when it was brand new in theaters, right, was they played that advertisement, and I don't remember what was the name of the song that was in the trailer, but it was a battle scene in the trailer, and it was this popular music at the time. I absolutely can't think of who it was, but it was somebody big, you know, whether it was, you know, Offspring or somebody like that, right? And we didn't get any of that kind of vibe at all in the movie, in the cinematic experience. And I kind of felt it was a little bit of a missed opportunity. We have seen more of that, you know, in recent years, where they use, like, you know, in the Thor scene with Led Zeppelin, Immigrant Song. It was just, yes, that was perfect. It was one of those moments in the trailer, and it was like, I kind of was a little bit let down by the cinematic experience, because we never got any of that kind of music in it. But, you know, there's a lot to be said for music that's scored specifically for a movie. It's not really a complaint I have now. It's just one of those things that sticks in my memory about trailers when they throw in music that's not actually part of the movie, that gives me a grr. Made today, it would have been better with live action. Yeah, I do not disagree. I don't disagree. I will be curious to see, because what they're doing a reboot now, right? I forget who it is that's supposed to be doing the movie, and is all like, I want to do it loyal to the book and all of that. And it's like, you know what? There's going to be a big mixed reaction to that, because the people who really wanted to see the book reimagined are going to be excited to see that. And maybe they'll love it, right? And then there'll be all these fans that have watched the movie and the animated series for years, and they'll watch it, assuming that it is loyal to the book, and they'll go, what is this? This is terrible. This is not at all what I was looking for, blah, 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 blah. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Yes, absolutely, Helldivers 2 was influenced by Starship Troopers the movie. Absolutely. Yeah. And isn't there a Starship Troopers game in development? I don't know if it got launched or not, but Helldivers kind of stole some of their thunder, and I thought the last I saw it was still in development, which I was kind of interested by, but we'll see, I guess. But anyway.
This is the Landsraad board, how it looks at the start of.
See, this is actually pretty cool to me, the way that they're handling this.
Houses shown, but you don't know what they require.
That would be a cool cameo.
Once you have reviewed
it would be
the tasks,
for Casper to play that kind of role in the movie, no matter what. That would be a nice nod.
And of course, the earlier you do that, the more time you have as well to actually work on those.
And each square on this board represents a major house of the Landsraad, and these are the representatives that you're looking for in the world.
Yeah, and if you don't manage to reveal, over time they will reveal themselves. And as you can see, there are different things they require of you. Some will require you to harvest resources or craft items such as still suits or.
What I want to see is how much can a single player move towards the 70,000 points required to throw one of these tiles. Right, that's what I'm curious about, because obviously it needs to be a significant investment, because mostly you'll have guilds that'll be biting off big chunks of that 70,000 points. But I am curious to see, you know, how much impact will the solo no-lifers have on the board.
Basically territory that these houses want in the deep desert.
I think an important point to mention is also that you do actually need to not only be...
Yeah, well, that's true.
You don't only need to belong to a faction, you also need to actually be in a guild to be able to participate in this.
Yeah.
as one of those potential
So here we have
no-lifers.
a few of those. I think we
I'm
can
curious.
go now further to actually show what your goal is on this bingo card, so to speak.
Yeah. So
Boy, the
as
Harkonnens got wrecked on that
as
one.
the factions complete tasks, they will show up on the board in their color, and this progresses
I think
throughout
we
the week.
need to go back to the previous board if we can, and perfect, and just leave it there for a sec. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is actually from the beta, and you can see that this week Atreides has absolutely crushed Harkonnen. But you can also see here that Harkonnen
Natasha.
has,
Grr.
won last week because they have the active decree. But this is where you compete, and towards the end of the week, basically the faction that has the most tasks completed by the end of the week will win. But there's also the possibility of faction winning before that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
completing
Yeah, I mean, I
5
agree.
tasks, which we call Sysselråd.
Yeah, it's a very nerdy term pulled from the books, but a Sysselrad is basically when a major voting block in the Landsraad works together, and then they basically you win. You can win the week by filling.
I read a book. I don't remember the name of the author. I think the name of the book was Otherland, right? And one of the big parts of the story were that people were essentially living in pods, right? Sometimes in absolute shitholes, and living their life in the other land, right? Where sometimes they would do work there and they would be doing gaming stuff there. Virtual reality, when it becomes really, truly intuitively interactive and it's something that people can plug into and widely accessible, particularly when you can go from play to work in that environment, is completely going to change society. I have no doubt of that, right? But that kind of thing it's like, yeah, there are times where it's like, you know what, just plug me in, hook me up, and in a week I'll be back out maybe. Yeah.
Filling out a line. You can block that by, of course, taking votes away. So you can prevent an early victory in the Landsraad by jumping in and completing tasks in a line to prevent other people from doing it. Yeah, it's kind of it's supposed to lead to players being tactical in their approach to how they do this, guilds being tactical in how they work together and against each other in this.
Yeah, very Matrix-like.
And in this case, it's also really fun to talk to another guild and like work together to make sure. Especially when it comes to that specific. Actually, I'm taking that a little bit too early when it comes to decrees afterwards as well. So if you really don't want one, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So yeah, so basically it's a row of either diagonally or vertically or horizontally. If you have all those 5, you actually win a Sysselrad, and
then it ends early. But if you don't manage the row,
yeah, then it is the most tasks completed. But I think this is quite interesting because it's not just a battle of effort here or anything. It's also the meta battle of blocking off the other
strategy.
faction.
There's kind of tactics and strategy involved as well, and not only PvP. As we heard, there's like you can really contribute to this no matter what kind of player you are. If you're a crafter, if you're an explorer, there's something for you to do as well to help your faction.
Oh man, there are times when it's far too easy to believe that we're living in a simulation. My wife and I joke all the time. It's like, you know what? Next playthrough, I'm choosing easy mode. This hard mode shit is for the birds. I don't know why I decided that I needed to play it in a challenging frame, but it sucks. Come on, man.
The placement of the guilds as well, which gets us into rewards. What are some of the rewards that you get from actually participating in this?
Yeah, the main reward that players are fighting over are the decrees.
I was curious about this exclusive tool import rights thing. By decree of the Landsraad Council, under the seal of His Imperial Majesty, the House Maros Trade Consortium has been authorized to visit Arrakis. Such goods as are traded during this period are not considered to be contraband and may be used freely in perpetuity. I wonder what kind of tools that's actually going to let us buy. All of these decrees are kind of interesting. To facilitate the recycling and refinement of raw materials during this period, CHOAM refineries registered to the Great House have had their production speed increased and repair costs reduced. Interesting. Yeah, repair costs and refining times are reduced by 75%. All times are dropped and all items, the PvP one, right? The PvP one here. All items are dropped and can be looted by anyone when defeated in the deep desert. This one's going to be interesting. I mean, that'll be, of course, my head's in the way. But this will be the hardcore group that'll be like, oh, no, I want to loot everything from everybody. That one's going to be interesting to see. I would imagine that the tool vendor will be one of those that people would choose to check out early in the world's life, whereas something like this would probably be more likely to be a hot choice later on. You can hit that, let us know. And I do wonder how many types of decrees are there, because what they gave me the impression in the number 4 live stream, which is the last one after this one, is that there are several decrees, and there are just 3 that are going to pop up in any given week. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
They are significantly powerful, and they alter the rules of the game, so to speak. So we have decrees such as access to vendors that provide some of the most powerful items in the game. That includes weapons, armors, tools, vehicles. It can be.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Lions. That's rough.
For the whole faction, for the whole week. Or even some more.
Lost too many of the fur babies over the decades of myself. It's painful.
Items are dropped in the deep desert, basically making it a full.
The big thing that's definitely hammering me in this playthrough right now is my son with his cancer. It's like, oh God, man.
And the mechanics for a whole world and all the servers.
Oh, there's more
that are part of that world.
Okay, here's one. Ranged weapon damage increased by 33%. That's another one. I believe that I've seen one that says melee damage increased by 33%. So those are interesting too. Never had a dog since we had to put down 15 years. Stayed with him through the whole process. Never again. Yeah, it is really rough. It is. And I totally understand that. For me, in general, it comes along within a year that I'm just like, okay, I need another friend like that. I need another family member like that, right? Because, I mean, to me, that's pets. Pets are part of the family, right? We've got Loki right now, who's an Australian Shepherd, and Ginger, who is a Chihuahua. She's a little deer-headed Chihuahua, who, when we got her, she seemed fine. She was a little nervous. Where we adopted her from was a little bit. But unfortunately, a couple of weeks in, she started having seizures, and those have passed. They're not uncommon for Chihuahuas. She hasn't had any seizures in a while, but it definitely left an impact on her. She's definitely a special needs pup. Yeah, that is super rough. Yeah, that stuff is hard. But I mean, you know, life just isn't life if you don't have pets. That's my opinion. You know what I mean? It is like having kids, except that, to be perfectly honest, most of the animals are they are more open and loving and unconditionally so than people tend to be, because we are so fickle. Humans are so fickle. We just are. Yeah, Golden Labs are kind of known for the hip thing, but all the breeds tend to have something going on. 15 and a half years old, knew it was coming sooner. Yeah, you just can't. We lost a Coco, which was the first pet that my wife and I adopted. She was a Chorky, a Chihuahua Yorkie mix. So she was our baby. She was the first one that we raised from essentially birth. We did get her from somebody who bred puppies. But she was adorable. She was fantastic, and she was when, let's see, what is 2000 and I think it was the end of 2006. It might have been the end of 2007, and she passed in 22. So she was 15 years old, and it was pretty quick too, which is the part that is so hard at times, right? She was doing okay, and then suddenly she wasn't, and we took her to the vet, and that went on for weeks, and eventually that was just it. It's rough, but I mean, 2 cats, 2 dogs, and then a 3rd cat this last year, just about a couple of months ago. Freya, who was relatively young. I really still don't know exactly what happened with her, unfortunately, but it sucks. Wrap his front legs around your waist and his head. Yeah, dogs are awesome. I like cats too, don't get me wrong, but dogs have got that, they've got that special something, man. I love them. Yeah, yeah, but I mean, they deserve it, don't they? They deserve the extra attention.
Impact you can have on how the game is played for like a whole week.
Yep.
Which is very exciting. But there's more awards than.
Oh wow, there's more.
A few more decrees here as well, and again.
Landsraad armor vendor, crafting costs reduced by 25%. Melee weapon damage up by 33%. This is cool.
Important to mention that there's not just PvP decrease that you can do. Like if you can be, we actually discussed that earlier. If you can be if you want to be a guild that is all about peace and you really want to kind of stop the PvPers from like doing their thing all the time, you can actively try to block them from, because they want to go for full loot again.
There's just a certain amount of irony in that, since you have to win the deep desert to do that, but
counter that in a way, which I think is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, one of the ways you can do that is when you when the week ends and the guild leader.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Guild leaders are the ones that can vote.
You have those moments where you're kind of wrapped up in something else, and they just want your attention,
and
it's
something called voting power that they gain based on how much their members contributed to the tasks. So a PvE guild, as you say, that
gotta love the fur babies,
and contributes a lot. They have more to say on which decree is chosen than a guild that contributes less.
Yeah.
So it's not only about the factions winning against the other factions, it's also about which guild within that faction has contributed the most.
The names of the contributors here, right? We got the Atreides, Sentinels, House Umbra, Nameplate, LFG, SOTS, SOG. I wonder what that actually stands for. Top #1 contributor for House Harkonnen, Dementia and Courage, Fremen with Benefit. Ravengate, Diamond Dogs, House Bigger. Those first two, it's like, oh, good God, man. There we go.
Exactly.
Because they get more power to decide.
You can see on the screen that on the 2 sides, you can see the top 5 contributing guilds.
Hard to go back and play it now. Yeah, negative associations.
I
understand that too.
You want to climb the ranks, so particularly the Harkonnen who like to backstab and take over each other's places.
Hey now.
But like it's you can see the same like with the Atreides. Maybe they're a bit more noble about it, but it's about there's also competitiveness within the guilds, within the factions, as well as this competition between the factions. Which is,
You're saying there might be backstabbing in between the factions.
I'm saying there might be plans within plans. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Plans
Diamond Dogs, yeah, I don't know.
That's kind of the idea here, to build this system. And I want to stress that, like, when the game launches, this will be there, but it won't be as fleshed out as it will be over time, right? Because we'll continue to add more activities.
He said in the other video, one of the other videos that we watched, that at launch, the game will be worse than it will ever be, which I thought was a really interesting way to phrase it, right? He's like, we're going to work on the game and make it better and better and better and better. But interesting wording to say at launch, it is the worst it will ever be, which hopefully is true, right? But I love Joel's vibe, man. He is so energetic and enthused and excited about the whole project. So excited. Plans within plans, Hawk above Hawk, shady guild members, not really guild members with spies for the opposite guild. Sounds familiar a little bit. Yep, just a little bit. I am really looking forward to seeing how all this plays out, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it is polished over time, right? As Funcom, because it's just like playing D&D, right? Tabletop games. The dungeon master has this plan and this adventure laid out, and he's got, even if he's a real planner, right? Because I'd be like, I have these encounters written out that are major encounters, and I'd be like, okay, I know my friend Kenny's going to do this, my friend Christopher's going to do this, my friend Greg's going to do the other, because I know him. We've been gaming for years, and it doesn't matter how well you have it planned out. As soon as the players get involved, you have this whole giant story right down here, and here comes the players going, wandering off, making decisions that you did not have any idea that they were going to do. Game development's exactly the same way. No matter how great Funcom's plans are, the player base, we are absolutely going to shake that shit up. So it will be interesting to see how they react and grow and evolve and polish the game up. No story survives contact with a player, right? Exactly. Just like no plan survives contact with the enemy. We will ruin it. We absolutely will ruin it. And I mean, I can already imagine here with the Landsraad, right? We will have, not only will we have people in the same faction, right? Guilds in the same faction, who will be working together to do stuff. We will have guilds in the same faction that will be in some way working against each other, because the Deep Desert is not faction versus faction. It just isn't. The Landsraad is, but the Deep Desert is group versus group. Now, hopefully all of the groups in your guild of 32 people, up to 32 people, will be working together. But other guilds may definitely be working against you in their own interest over your own. And that could include blocking you from completing a task that you want to complete, because maybe they're actually working with a group from the other faction. So it will be interesting to see how all of this comes together. Right? I think it's a very interesting choice that they have made to not offer any kind of friendly fire protection outside of your party. So it's going to be really important to be organized. I think that, whether it's VoIP or Discord, voice chat, and I know a lot of people, the real organized people, are going to be in their own Discord groups, right? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Guilds are going to form alliances to influence their political game in the Deep Desert. I can't see it staying free for all forever. No, there will absolutely be cooperation, right? There will be. I have no doubt that the probably the biggest guilds, the most influential guilds, of course, will all, you will have a Discord. Because if you watch Damone Kim's videos, right? They've already got a thing going in their Discord where it's like, we'll get you into groups that can be in a guild, and they'll have sub guilds. And I know that's absolutely going to be a thing, right? And if they've got 500 people, then they'll have however many guilds it takes to have, you know what I mean? And they can be spread across multiple sieges as long as they can get in the same world. But a group that big is community that big is probably going to impact more than one world as well, right? We'll see how it all goes. But I can actually absolutely see Harkonnen guilds and Atreides guilds going, I tell you what, we won't block you on House X as long as you don't block us on House Y, so that they can both complete their, I know they just told me what it is, the whatever rod that is the tic-tac-toe bar. Right? There'll be those kinds of deals as well. Smart Discord-based fire teams and response teams, yeah. Right? And I mean, I expect that you'll see identifiable uniforms as well. Right? People, everybody's going to wear this over here, or at least in these colors, to help try and identify, make sure you approach from the north, blah, 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 blah. It'll be interesting. But I do kind of like the fact that it's a limited friendly fire protection, because that means tactics are really going to matter, and the snafus will be real. Be somewhat limited. even what big guilds can organize and do, considering player limits. Yeah, and I mean, you can, as it's been discussed, right? The way that the Deep Desert is set up is there are 3x3 boxes, and each of those 3x3 boxes are 3x3 boxes. So there are 81 total servers in the Deep Desert that are connected through server meshing, and you can have 300 people in the Deep Desert in every zone, and each of the 9 large boxes, you can only have 100 people in each one. Those are the caps, right? So where you're able to deliver assets is definitely going to matter too. Because I mean, you know, if you've got the spice blow in this box over here, you're only going to be able to have 100 people in that 9 boxes in that one box. Right? And then how many of those are going to be your guild versus other guilds, or your faction versus the other faction? We'll have to see how that all works out. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Deep Desert is big, so I'm hoping that people who want to get involved in the other content will be able to do it. Yeah, max 100 in a tile. There you go. Is it 100 in a single tile, or is it 100 in a large tile, in a 9x9 cube box? Because I'm not entirely clear on that either. Because I'm hoping it's 100 in a small one, which in that case, then you could have all 300 people in the Deep Desert in one of the large 9x9 tiles, which would be pretty dense, even if you can't quite cross I don't know. I'm not clear on that, but it will be interesting regardless. I know that there are a lot of people that are actually disappointed that the numbers are actually smaller than they expected, but we'll see. And they may open it up. Lots and lots of sand, yeah. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like what we've talked about with the Star Citizen before, is eventually space will be big, right? And you'll be able to go do your own thing off in a corner someplace. And even though the pirates could come along and kill you at any time, they're unlikely to do so unless you're in a hotspot location, right? And this will kind of be the same thing in the Deep Desert, right? Unless you're at the Spice Blow or at the Deep Desert science station, that's not the words I'm looking for, but the post-rock brain is real right now, then you might be able to kind of do what you want, regardless of how hot the PvP may be at the hotspots. So we'll see how it all goes. It's going to be interesting. Of course, it also depends on how visible you are for how long, because like, if you're just driving along in your sand bike, which obviously you're not going to be able to stay on the sand at length there, but if you're buzzing around on the sand bike out on one of the islands, you might be a lot less likely to be seen, or on foot, than somebody flying around in an ornithopter. Also forgetting keeping the Deep Desert supplied with vehicles isn't cheap. Yeah, it's all going to be, the logistics will be real, and I actually really love that, because I'm a big fan of being involved with the logistics gameplay. So we'll see. I think it's going to be good.
Or decrease, so that the game will continue to evolve with different things happening, right? Like, and that's kind of the idea. Like, when we add X, that's going to start showing up in the Landsraad as an activity that we want people to do as a part of the Landsraad. And so this is a system that I feel has like an infinite potential to continue expanding as the game expands.
He always mentions repeatedly, it's like, we're going to add more to this. We're going to add more to this.
As well.
That's going to be very cool too.
Factions that are the winners, even if you lose, but maybe you can comment a little bit on that as well.
I expect a balancing will, absolutely, right? Because they have to be going at this from a conservative place, right? If they're saying, we know we can handle 300 in a Deep Desert and 100 in a tile, right? If they're saying they know they can do that, right? Because they absolutely aren't going to want to dial that back and say, sorry guys, we can actually only have 200 in the Deep Desert and 50 in a tile. They don't want to do that. So they've got to be considering, okay, this is a safe place to start. Let's see how it goes. Maybe we can bump those numbers over time, and maybe we'll wind up with 500 players in the deep desert by the end of the year, right? With maybe 125 or 150 players in a single tile. We don't know. We won't know until we see. But I genuinely believe that they've got to be coming at it from a conservative place, right? And then we'll see it grow if it can. Just like the Haga Basins. We don't know how many Haga Basins they're planning on putting in. I suspect that in 2 days when we launch early, I keep wanting to say early access, that's the wrong word, Head Start, right, is we'll have a game world and they'll open maybe 20 Haga Basins, right? So that's 800 people. And then on the 10th, they'll go, okay, we're going to add 10 more. So instead, we'll have 1,600 people who can be in the Haga Basins on that world, right? So, they may be able to grow those numbers even more than they're planning on, depending on how performant the servers are. Yeah, there will absolutely be a lot of snipers. I mean, both literally and figuratively with hostility. It is going to be, yeah, exactly. It makes me think of, I don't know if we played a lot of Star Citizen, and in the early days, if you got to Grimhex, which is the pirate base, the entire area around Grimhex was a free fire zone, right? So if you were moving around outside the asteroid base, you would be fired on. There would always be some sniper waiting for you to pop out that door and shoot you in the head. I didn't play Rust, but I know it's exactly that same kind of thing. That's it. Serpentine! Some Haga Basins were tested with 150 with not so good results. 120 okay, but 80 was good. Yeah, that's way above the 40 cap. Yeah, so we'll see. And of course, once they're done launching, that moves them into a different phase of potential optimization as well, when they can see where they can allocate resources that maybe they didn't have to, right? So yeah, even if they can go 80, even 80 would be quite a massive change from 40. So I'm excited to see, right? I am. And they're talking about 10 years of story content, right? 10 years of added content and DLC I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time on Arrakis. That's all I can say at this point. I am definitely way more excited for this game than maybe on some other project that I've been excited about for 12 years.
The houses, and they give everybody who contribute a certain percentage rewards. The rewards can be something like a great amount of Solari, a large amount of endgame components, unique schematics. Again, they're always powerful. And eventually even the house colors of that house as a swatch that you can apply to your own armor.
Absolutely true.
And this is given to players.
Larger population works to everybody's benefit as a player.
And they start at a pretty low percentage, so it should be something that's achievable for many players.
Also on a personal level. Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I have a tendency to do a lot of Lone Wolf gameplay when I play, because I work off. I play off hours from my region. And I've been playing a lot of games that don't have other people to play with. This will be different for me in that regard too, since we'll be hopping in with people we know.
There's multiple decrees that unlock different vendors, and they have, as I mentioned,
those unique schematics that you mentioned.
Also true.
Schematics, and they also have.
That was one of the things we were talking about before, right? Is not only is there bases everywhere, but every time you go to do a PvE objective, it's already done. You don't want that to be a thing either.
Interesting, yes, for like any kind of player.
Yeah, people should be spread out.
Yes. I think that was actually a good overview already, and as mentioned, we have the beta weekend coming up, so no, actually players won't be able to check out the launch at the weekend, unfortunately. That's a bit,
It takes a bit too long to get here. This is endgame, right? Like,
yes, it's a bit too complex.
You can join a faction, you can join a faction in the beta.
You can.
I think you'll be able to join a faction and like start doing quests.
And we did.
What's it like to be a Harkonnen?
I think I did the first quest.
What's it like to be an Atreides? But
I know other people got further along than I did.
Beta
no, that's
scope
true.
that we're going to have
that as well,
on May 9th.
Yeah.
But that's you know, that's a part of the.
I'm totally not sure what I'm going to do about that step either. I feel like I'm going to do the quest line and right up to the point where I have to choose, and then I just won't choose until I feel like I absolutely have to. Although I think the group we're playing with is more likely to go Atreides, unless we go Harkonnen to betray. So
this is going to be
I guess
really spicy questions, so that I can give really spicy answers.
Amar, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we have you on the streams